One of the things I find most fascinating about the dodo is the sheer variety in early depictions, with differences in colour and anatomy. So why did this bird look so different between illustrations? We will take a look at some ideas here on Deciphering the Dodo. When most people think of the dodo, they may picture a grey bird with white wings and a white tail. Most oftentimes, these are based on the illustration known as Edwards dodo, which was also likely used as inspiration for many museum specimens. But I must preface that these specimens are only approximations, as we have only a small amount of remaining soft tissue and fragmentary feathers. When looking at other depictions of the time, dodos more often tend to be presented as brown birds, and sometimes these early illustrations also have tails, which was my inspiration for the colours and structures seen in dodo displays. But how does this make any sense? Why is this one bird so inconsistent between drawings? I understand that these are just sketches, and that most of them were probably not even done on live birds, but these seem like key details. It would be quite easy to say that some of these drawings are just plain wrong, but what if this variation did exist in the population? Some theories suggest this variation could have been due to there being several species of dodo, sexual dimorphism, ontogeny, and/or seasonal variation. But here's my theory. Firstly, eye change, or ontogenetic optic dichromatism, which is what I think it would be called. With quite a few birds, the eye colour of the young is different from the mature. I don't think this is seen in all birds, but it is seen in pigeons, chickens, and quite a few others too. The reason why this happens isn't very clear, but it could just be a sign of maturity. And so I would think the dodo would go from having dark eyes to having light eyes. Next is face change, where in a similar way to eye change, birds develop certain traits associated with maturity. These include the very obvious combs and wattles of roosters, but also the less well-known cera of pigeons. I'm not saying the dodo's entire beak and face was covered in cera, but a changing colour of the keratinous sheath of the beak is plausible. And so in theory, a dodo would transition from having a dark face to having a light face. After this would be feather change. Many sexually dimorphic species start out looking a lot like females, and over the course of several months or even years, transition into a more traditional looking male. I've witnessed this firsthand with peacocks, where the males start out looking a lot like the females. This type of dimorphism has evolved many different times in different bird orders, suggesting there's quite a strong selection pressure for it, probably because looking like a female is better for camouflage and for avoiding aggression from conspecific males. There's also even a few examples of sexual dimorphism known in columbiforms. And so a young male dodo may transition into having more of a blue-grey plumage as an adult. And if you think about it, this sort of blue plumage can be seen on one of the dodo's closest living relatives, the crowned pigeons. And while this sort of blue-grey plumage may be well associated with pigeons, back when Edwards' dodo was painted, it wasn't known what the dodo was closely related to. It's thought that it wasn't until the 1840s that the dodo was associated with pigeons. Is this just a coincidence? Personally, I don't think so. You could also say the same about the head of the Nicobar pigeon. I do also think that some young or female dodos could have had brown rufous plumage, as this sort of colour is also commonly seen in pigeons. In fact, there's already a columbiform that shows the exact plumage trend I would expect to see in dodos. The blue ground dove. What a clearly precious bird. Now, let's talk tails. Some depictions have them, some don't, but it's important to note that some of the earliest depictions did have tails. Now, I think it's unlikely that the dodo would have had a plume of ostrich feathers for a tail, but I think it's very possible that male dodos would have had a modest tail used for display, and this tail may have grown slightly each year, similar to a peacock's train. Such structures are a signal of a male's age and health, as in theory a female is more attracted to those with the more exaggerated features, and a relatively slow growth of such features allows the male to get used to surviving with such a burden. If you've ever watched pigeon courtship, you know they love to use their tails to display. This is the case for most columbiform species. But that's not all. The ostrich is hiding something. The dodo's closest living relative, the Nicobar pigeon, has a white tail, which could mean this is a shared ancestral trait. Pigeons are also well known for puffing out their chests. It's very possible that the dodo could have done something similar. This may also be why they look so round in some early depictions. A female wouldn't really need these exaggerated features, but she would need somewhere to keep her egg, or at least vital energy stores for making an egg. With some birds that carry large eggs, such as the kiwi, you can tell when the female is gravid. A female bird's abdomen is often lower when she's laying, and even if they're not laying, it can be a good place to store energy in the form of fat. Also, both of these depictions have white eyes, possibly suggesting that this is an important feature of an adult dodo. And so this is my explanation for the various early depictions of dodos. My theory suggests that none of these illustrations were wrong, just that dodos were highly variable. But my evidence mostly came from living birds. Of course, it's currently impossible to know what the dodo actually would have looked like. And just one final bit of evidence, the slender beak on this individual could be a sign of immaturity. As like a baby pigeon, a dodo would have to reach into its mother's mouth to get food. I obviously don't have an explanation for everything. I don't know why they have this blue patch under their beak. Maybe it's just another sign of maturity? This is just what I think. It's all rather speculative and it may be completely wrong, but at least it gave me an excuse to talk about several different species of bird and the patterns I've seen in their anatomy.